I'll say this. Actually, we got Darrin Bauming. Let's bring him in. I want to read this comment. Hey, Bomber, you are a good Canadian sportsman, last I checked. Jim Lang saying on Facebook today, this Bev Priestman scandal with the soccer is the biggest Olympic Canadian soccer of all time. Jim said that. I say no. Ben Johnson is. Trent in Norway writes in, he says, I say the Ben Johnson scandal is the biggest one in Canadian sports history. I agree that the soccer story can become bigger with the 2026 World Cup in North America. We'll see. Is this the biggest scandal of all time? I don't think so. It's big, but not the biggest.
I'm with you. This is a big scandal. This is a huge, huge scandal because we learned yesterday that, the coach was let go because this is something that has gone on for years and might even bring Canada's gold medal from a couple Olympics ago into question. The reason the Ben Johnson scandal, in my mind, and yours, Rod, I think I'll speak for you here, is because it's a higher profile event in the Olympics. It's maybe the highest profile event in either the Winter or Summer Olympics across the globe. And it was the beginning of the steroid era, if you will, and bringing all of these athletes into question. So like that was the foundational touchstone scandal, Ben Johnson in '88.
Yeah, well, to me, you've given better reasoning than I did, but you're smarter than me. We all know that. What I said was he lost his medal over it. I don't know what year, I don't know how old you were. I was 15 watching those Olympics. Yeah. And I remember
I was about half that age.
Right off the track. Yeah, peed in a bottle, and they're like, oh, you took steroids, we're giving your medal back. This could be a bigger scandal if they take away the gold from the last Olympic, but right now, I would say that Ben Johnson was still bigger. And like you say, the start of the steroids era, we still talk about it 35 yees later. I don't think we're going to be talking about Bev Priestman 35 years from now. Now, I invited audience participation.
Do you remember watching, sorry, Rod, do you remember watching Ben Johnson like standing next to Carl Lewis and how hulking
I remember it all.
Ben Johnson was? Like he looked like the WWF wrestlers of that era. It was incredible.
He was like the WWF wrestlers of that era. They were all on steroids. They're all dead now. Because I invited the questions, I'm going to throw one to you. Jeremy, who ironically is in Winnipeg. He says, I'm wondering your opinion, Rod, if Mahomes does get a three-peat, but doesn't get 7 rings to match Brady, could he still be the GOAT? It's a no from me, dog. 7-7. But how would you answer that?
Yeah, 7 is 7 with multiple teams over 2 decades, right? That's greatest of all time. If you get lightning in a bottle, the GM, the coach, the chemistry in the locker room, all of that, and it works towards a three-peat, that's great. Maybe the best team of all time, that will come into question. That'll come into debate, but no. As much as I was a Colts fan, not a Patriots fan in those years, and I hate to say it, Tom Brady is the GOAT.
I'm going to tell you, you say you hate to say it? Do you not like Tom?
No, I never liked him.
Okay, fair. Here's the thing. Amongst the football people, because there's football people and then there's fans and media. They're different. Mm-hmm. There are football people that are media. They're somewhere in between. There's some conjecture amongst people who's the greatest quarterback of all time in the NFL. But amongst the football guys that I hang with, there ain't. It's Tom. Because they count championship.
Yep.
But that's not the debate I wanted to get
Manning
into.
Guy. I think if I had to win one game, I would want Peyton. And a lot of people think I'm nuts for saying that, but that's how I feel.
Here's me. I can say they're both awesome. I know people don't want to hear that, but you also know that. They're going nuts, Bomber, about Rasheed Bailey getting released by the Argos. Was that just this morning? Like, what do you know about this guy, and what do you know about that situation?
Yeah, I think we started hearing rumblings late last night, and anytime you mention Rasheed Bailey's name amongst Blue Bomber fans, they light up. The energy that he brings on and off the field is reflected in his fans, and it's pretty much everybody here in Winnipeg and Southern Manitoba, everybody in Blue Bombers Nation. the fact that he was released, like we don't know why or, the reasoning behind it. We do know that he was listed on the injury report this week as a head injury, didn't practice, then was limited in practice, then fully practiced yesterday. And now he's been released, with Winnipeg having so many injuries to their elite level receivers in Kenny Lawler, who they hope to have back in a few weeks from a broken arm, Dalton Schoen, who is out for the season, Keurig Wheatfall, who was a 100-yard receiver as a rookie in week 2. All of those guys on the 6-game injured list right now. Lucky Whitehead, I think it's going to be his 3rd straight week on the practice roster, has not been activated yet after signing with Winnipeg. Everybody's wondering, is Rashid going to be a Winnipeg Blue Bomber? And Jeff Hamilton of the Winnipeg Free Press reported today that the Bombers have expressed interest to Rashid Bailey's agent. And I mean, they know what they're getting in him. And maybe that's what Winnipeg needs right now. Plain and simple, Rod, the Blue Bombers offense is putrid right now. It's awful. I've never seen it this bad since it was Brian Braum at quarterback. And maybe some of the NCAA fans remember that guy. But maybe a little bit of juice, a little bit of life that Rashid Bailey can bring just to the locker room might be what the doctor ordered. I don't know.
Okay. Well, as you know, you've been covering the CFL a long time. I find it hard to cover because it's hard to get to the real story. Every league has its issues, but I find the CFL is the worst. Like Bailey, I thought, just from what I don't know anything about him, and without talking to anybody, I just thought he was a bad guy. I thought he was cut because he did something stupid. But did he leave Winnipeg because of money? Argos offered him more money? No, is that wrong? That was just an assumption that I made that I'm clearly wrong on.
Winnipeg couldn't offer him enough money. And that's not like he was asking for the world. The reality is Winnipeg had a ton of young guys that they really liked, and we've seen that already. Ontario Wilson, Keurig Wheatfall, Cody Case. And think about this, okay? You've got the highest paid quarterback in the league in Zach Collaros. You have the highest paid running back in Brady Oliveira. And you have 2 of the 3 highest paid receivers. They might even be the 2 highest paid receivers in the CFL in Kenny Lawler and Dalton Schoen. They just can't afford to pay $90,000 or $100,000 for that number 4 receiver on the depth chart, because you got Nick Dembski and you got fellow Canadian Drew Wolatarski and one of those new guys that they were hoping to get in. And we're seeing why Winnipeg liked their young guys so much, because they have been very good. So it wasn't a bad guy thing at all. He is close with a lot of guys in that room here in Winnipeg, was heart and soul energy always. And I think the Argos jumped on the opportunity to sign him. But why they cut him, that's a big, big question. You talk about there not being a lot of real answers or get the real story here in the CFL. The Argos are playing the Bombers this week. I'm trying to find information on the Argos, and it's kind of a media black hole, unfortunately, in the Big Smoke.
I don't know the answer on that. It's got, again, you've been around the CFL a real long time. You get it. I mean, they don't have the money at stake that the NHL does and the NFL does. When it comes to injuries, as it relates to the betting, it's all locked down. Boom, boom, boom. It's just not that way in the CFL. For me, that makes it very hard to cover. Agree or disagree?
Absolutely. Certainly. I remember a couple years ago, I can't even remember the player, but it was a prominent Argo player on offense and out for the season. And like 2 weeks went by and nobody knew. They just thought, oh, okay, he's one-gamed or whatever. And ends up, they just one-gamed him for a paper move. And then they ended up moving him to the 6. And that's unfortunate. I mean, here in Winnipeg, we've got maybe the most, if not one of the most robust media contingents when it comes to NHL hockey and most definitely the Canadian Football League. And because Mike O'Shea handles his business the way he does, for better or worse, we often don't know if a player is out for the season or whether they're going to be back in 4 weeks or 8 weeks or 16 weeks or will he play in the play? Sometimes we don't know. It took a national reporter to report that Dalton Schoen was out for the season for Mike O'Shea to then eventually confirm that report and say, yes, he is out for the season. That's the way it is in the CFL. You can criticize the media members, as we often get. You can criticize the, everything behind the scenes, the CFL mandates, the CFL bylaws, all of those things that they hold the teams accountable to. Are they strict enough? I don't think so, but we are where we are. I don't know. I'll just come out and say it. I think the tail wags the dog when it comes to the CFL. I don't know if the league has enough power.
Hey, I get it, dude. I get it. I hope people are listening. This is what I don't miss. Getting called in by the owner of the radio station and going, how come we don't have any scoops on the Rough Riders? How come they're all coming from TSN? We're the voice of the team. We're paying them. I don't know. Ask the Riders. That was my answer. You're the big shot. You go ask them.
That's not different in other markets. That's not different in other markets.
Well, I'm still tired of it. Jeremy says the CFL needs an Adam Schefter. Oh, well, they kind of do. But I was just going to say this too, by the way. O'Shea's won. By the time he's done, he may go down as the winningest coach in Bomber history. I don't know. Cal's got 3 Grey Cups, right? Yep. O'Shea's got 2. I'll guarantee you he's not regretting how he handles his business. Yep. That's the other thing. You're not going to ever convince them they're wrong.
That's right. Yeah. For better or worse. That's how I just have to leave it at that.
Yeah,
I've covered this team for 13, 14 seasons, and Mike O'Shea, since he took over the team in 2014, that's the way it is. And they have been a successful franchise. So I'm at the point now where it's like you got personal and professional, and it's like, hey, if they're winning, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. I'm not going to blame them for that.
Go walk your dog. If I had a dog. Charlie from Winnipeg writes in, he says, nice to see you here, DB. Your show is after Winnipeg Sports Talk today, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. Chris Welby and I always do our pregame show the day before the game, live at 3:00 on Bonfire Sports. And that gives people some time to digest it all before kickoff.
There you go. That's 3 p.m. Central, obviously, right?
Yeah. Central Daylight Time, not Central Standard with the Regina crew, yeah.
I know. Another one. Don't start.
I'm getting you on all your points here today.
I know. On the fields. What's going to go on at BMO tomorrow? Do you have a prediction?
I mean, you talk about 2 teams that are Jekyll and Hyde this year. You got the Toronto Argonauts and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I mean, Argos beat BC week 1. Okay. Hey, it's week 1. You never know what you're going to get. And I think game planning that week is very difficult. Week 2, they squeak by the Edmonton Elks. Like, the Elks gifted them that game. Then they lose to Montreal. They lose to Saskatchewan. They beat Montreal in the game that Cody Fajardo got hurt a couple weeks ago. Then they lose to the lowly Hamilton Tiger Cats, albeit it was at Tim Hortons Field, down the road from Toronto. But the Argos, I mean, the offseason that they had, the Chad Kelly fiasco that likely continues, and it's really shook the Toronto Argonauts up. And I think they were a team, along with Montreal, that were really looking like, okay, maybe the power is shifting a little bit in the CFL towards the East with 2 strong franchises there. Scott Milanovic taking over in Hamilton, I thought they were going to be a lot better than they've shown to be in a 1-win football team. I thought the East was going to be really good this year, but you got a real mixed bag with the Toronto Argonauts. And then, I mean, Winnipeg, you could call them Jekyll and Hyde. You could call them just Hyde, or I guess Jekyll was the monster, right? They've just been completely un-Blue Bomber-like. And nobody's going to blame injuries, but no doubt that's come into play. I think if you point at one thing, why the Bombers are 3 games under 500 right now, it's Zach Collaros, and his play has just been nowhere near what we've come to know and appreciate of the 2-time CFL MOP. It's very, very strange this season.
Hey, intriguing game. We all got to watch all the games intriguing this week. Darrin, thanks for this. Have some great shows, man. Hope you're having a great summer.
Hey, great talking to you, Roddy. You too. Take care.
as always, the great Darrin Bauming.